Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I decided to combine both the Asian, Pacific Islander, and Black History Month together because it's dealing with that of both races. So I'm here today to talk about Rush Hour, the 1998 movie. This movie captured people by storm. It was a phenomenal movie that is extremely hilarious and very successful, spawning two sequels and a television show. So this movie had a budget of $33 million dollars and made about $244.4 million dollars and stuff. This movie led to the creation of Rotten Tomatoes, the website that everybody loves to use to tell if a show or a movie is any good, even though that's not real fact, but it's just people's opinion. And yeah, this movie is a buddy cop, but it's a unique buddy cop. Most buddy cop movies are like a single race or like they're black and white, like Lethal Weapon. But this one had a unique twist to it. This buddy cop was that of a black man and a Chinese man. And it made for one of the most hilarious outings when people saw this in theaters. Whenever I'm feeling sad or depressed or whatever, I just pop in Rush Hour and I laugh and laugh and I laugh. And it's weird because lightning in a bottle struck more than just one time with this franchise. It's a cultural phenomenon, and it really showed a different view from different perspectives that weren't just typical like a white typical movie or like a black typical movie or a white and black movie, because it added that element of an Asian feel to it. And this was back in 98, and they decided to do something like this. Now, it's directed by a very disgraced director, Brett Ratner, who got canceled in 2017, even though he was allowed to produce a movie in 2019, but he hasn't done anything since because he is disgusting. And this movie is just bonkers hilarious. It's just random things that will happen in this movie that you don't expect things to happen because it's so fresh and new and everything. Nowadays, well, the humor in this movie you probably will never see today because, like I said before, this was back in 1998, and the sequels came out just a couple of years later. I never saw the first Rush Hour. I saw it on TV. I don't know when or where. I might have been in college. I might have been in high school. I don't remember. I do remember the third one coming out and stuff when I was in college. And so the jokes have not aged well in the modern day. It's here's the thing. I've watched this movie so many times, I never realized just how racist this movie is, and the sequels and everything. It's that racist type humor where yes, they do say the N-word in the first movie and in the third. In the first one, even though I hate the N word, I understand the significance of the joke. Oh, by the way, happy Asian, Pacific Islander, and Black History Month. I just decided to combine it all. Even though I hate the N word and everything, like I said before, I understand the significance of this joke because it's a foreigner from a foreign land who has probably never heard of that word. And when he sees a black man uses it, he thinks it's okay. And it just made for a really hilarious bit, even though I still hate that word. But I understand the significance of that joke. But yeah, all the other jokes in here, when I say this movie is racist, I mean it's racist. I never realized just how racist Detective Carter is. He doesn't call no Asian person a racial slur, but he has like other meanings for like slur phrases and stuff. Whenever he's mad at like an Asian person, and since this movie deals with Chinese predominantly, whenever he gets pissed at them, he always calls them like some type of Chinese food dish. Like, like sweet and sour chicken, or like just all kind of different like different dishes you would think about. And I'm thinking to myself, and I never realized just how racist that is until like, it was a couple of years back in the WWE, Jerry the King Lawler, he called one of the Asian wrestlers a Chinese food name. After that, he disappeared for TV for like ever. And I think him or fans wondered, did he get canceled and stuff? Because he was put on the pre-shows on pay-per-views only instead of like Monday or Thursday or Monday or Friday night. Now he's completely gone from the company because of health issues and stuff, and probably because he hasn't been prominently on TV in the longest time. But like, I was all like, oh, okay, I guess like that's offensive. So then I started thinking about the Rush Hour movies, and just now I'm just like, because he's always calling Asian people food, and that's kind of like the equivalent of calling somebody like an animal, like a black person, like a gorilla or something like that. But it made its way in like, at least the first two movies. I'm not really sure about the third one and stuff. But like, yeah, in the first movie he does that a lot. And even to the point that where he knows for a fact somebody's Chinese, but then he'll get so mad at them, he'll be all like, um, you Chinese or Japanese or like whatever you are. Like, he'll just start naming them different Asian names and stuff like that, which is something you're not supposed to do. And like, there's other times where he's all like, "I'll slap you back to like Beijing or back to the Ming Dynasty," and then Jackie Chan's character's like, "I'll slap you back to Africa," and everything. And I'm just kind of like, "Holy crap! I never realized how racist this movie is." And then in the sequel, he's all like, you mean Tito? Toto is what we ate for dinner last night, meaning that Chinese people put dogs and cats in their food, which is a big like myth and everything. And I'm just kind of like, ah. So in the modern day, you would never hear jokes like that ever again. Also, all the misogyny in the movie, because Carter is constantly hitting on women, and like, he'll walk up to them like, "Oh, hey cutie," or "Hey sweetie," and always trying to get in their pants and stuff like that. And then there's the scene in the second movie where they're literally spying on a woman in her lingerie and like stripping down, and I'm just like, post Me Too era, oh, that would never happen and stuff. So these movies are literally a product of their time, and like newer, younger people like Gen Z are just now starting to discover these movies, and they're ripping them apart a lot. And stuff. Kind of like they do with Saved by the Bell. But like, yeah, when I say this movie is just like, despite the racism and stuff, this movie is just hilarious because you have two comedians doing what they do best, be funny. You have Chris Tucker, which the only complaint I've ever had about him in this movie is like he doesn't act like a cop. Like no part of him ever acts like a real cop. He just acts like Chris Tucker and everything, which is just like beyond hilarious. But then when you get to the second and the third movie, he is more toned down. He's not as loud as before. He's not as zany, and he acts more like a professional cop. But in the first movie, oh, he's all Chris Tucker 24/7. And then you have Jackie Chan doing what Jackie Chan does best, like, the martial arts and the humor and this and that. Surprisingly, something I never knew is that Jackie Chan actually hates every Rush Hour movie. I was shocked to hear that because, okay, Rumble in the Bronx is how he got this gig. The director saw him in that and was all like, "Oh, I want him for this movie." So Rumble in the Bronx introduced people to Jackie, but most people probably never saw that movie and this and that. But it was this movie that propelled him to international fame because he was a huge star in China, but most people never knew who he was unless you saw his Chinese movies. And how often do those come over to America back in the day? So this movie propelled him into international fame. So I was very shocked and surprised to like hear that like he just flat out hates these movies. He said it's more like a cultural type thing. He doesn't find them funny because he says, like Chinese humor is different from American humor. And so he doesn't find none of the jokes in this movie funny. Not only that, but he was still very new to speaking English and his English was not very well. And he's really upset about how he spoke English in this movie. Now, if you hear him speak, oh, it's like perfect English, like in that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Mutant Mayhem movie. I was surprised that was his voice and everything. And like he's also upset that the movies didn't have tons of action because that's what his fans are known for. He said like, 10 minutes worth of action, but in this movie it's not like that. Plus, I've heard Jet Li even criticize, making American movies. He said it's very different because like in Hong Kong, they say you can pretty much do whatever you want in a movie, but in America, there's so many rules left and right, because of studio interference and what you can do and what you can't. And also Jackie doesn't like using a stunt double, which I think by the third movie, I think he did and everything. And something else. Oh, also he said, filming an American like Jackie said, filming an American movie is so much different because in China you have like a couple of people making the movie and you'll put like a camera on a chair and just roll it. But over here in America, you have like tons of people working on a movie, tons of equipment, and he finds it unnecessary and stuff. And so he was actually surprised that the movie was a smash hit that it was and that it got like sequel after sequel because he just didn't think it would be that funny. And plus he said he never knew some of the stuff that he was saying because of the language barrier and stuff. And I remember in one of the bloopers, I forget which movie it was, but he literally said like, the director has me say all these bad words and stuff like that, and he has no idea like what they mean. And he says that he never knows what Chris is saying and stuff because Chris talks like so fast and stuff like that. But those two are like best friends and everything now. And like, yeah, so basically what he does is like he said, like, because that's the reason why we never got Rush Hour 4. He kept turning down the movie because he didn't like the scripts and stuff. But he says if you pay him, he'll do them, which now supposedly Rush Hour 4 is happening and stuff. And he uses the American money to fund his Chinese movies and stuff. But yeah, like Chris Tucker has like he always praises these movies because they're just hilarious. But I could understand the language barrier from a different country when it comes to like Jackie in these movies. But it's just weird. He just doesn't like find these movies like humorous and stuff. Because they are laugh out loud funny and stuff. Because it's an action comedy movie. But to each their own and stuff. And since then I've noticed like a lot of people have started to turn on Jackie Chan because like nobody knew who he was, and it was just like he's just like the goofy guy in the movie. But then when more articles about him come online, they're not particularly good. Especially that Michelle Yeoh one and the one about his daughter. So it's like a lot of people have changed their tune towards Jackie over the years and wonder who really is this man. And Chris, after the third movie, he stopped just like appearing in movies and stuff until he finally started to come back. But that's like very brief and everything. So I can understand why both men want to do like the fourth movie and stuff. Hopefully they're still friends. I know they were like really close friends back in the day. I don't know about now because you never hear about like Chris's like personal life unless it's financial or something like that. And you never hear about Jackie's personal life unless it's like really personal, which has caused fans to like not so much like him, but they still like him and stuff. It's just because it's like a YouTuber who went into like a deep dive on Jackie Chan, and I was surprised about some of the stuff I heard and stuff. But anyway, yeah. So the thing about like I don't understand is like, cause see the thing about this movie and like I'm okay with him not speaking good English because that's part of the humor in the movie. He's an outsider coming into a different land, and even though he can speak English, people assume he can't, and people treat him differently because they assume things about him. And when he proves to people, hey, I'm just like you, and like, I can speak English. It's funnier when like, he can't speak English that well as opposed to somebody who can. Because it's like, sorry about that. Somebody's cutting their grass. I hope it doesn't get picked up on this thing. But it's a cultural difference movie. It's two worlds coming together. It's like somebody not understanding what's going on in like, another country. And that's like the importance of like the humor. It's the differences and stuff. And then it's those differences that like come together because they realize that even though they are from two different countries, they are still like, people and everything, and they have like, the same like beliefs and stuff like that. And it causes both their characters to later on respect each other in the movies and respect each other with each passing movie. See, that's the importance of the movie. But the fact that it's like a cultural difference and a cultural like, imbalance, that's like also like just the humor of like, the movies and stuff. Boy, I hope that lawnmower doesn't get picked up on this. Anyway, and so it's sad that he can't see that because that's the heart of like the movie. It's like, it's cause it's the same thing with the second movie. Because in the second movie, then it's Carter going to China, and things are very different over there. I just wish they would have spent more time there than like they did. But like there are so many hilarious scenes in this movie. Like, see. It's about this Chinese ambassador who comes on over to America. And like there is like, this Asian gang that like stole a bunch of stuff and they want it back and they like kidnap his daughter. His daughter is hilarious in this movie, Soo Young. This is like really the only role she's ever had. She did a short movie a couple of years after this. But this is really the only thing she's ever done. And I'm like, oh my God, she is hilarious. I wish she was in more movies. That Mariah Carey song that she sung was like, just like, when I say like, there are things in these movies that just like you don't expect to see. That's one of them. Like you just don't expect to see that. And it's just hilarious and stuff. It just comes out of like nowhere. The most random thing, she's singing a Mariah Carey song. And like how rude she is to like the bad guys towards the end of the movie because she's repeating all the bad stuff that Carter is saying. And so Inspector Lee, played by Jackie Chan, he comes over to America because the councilman wanted one of his own people to investigate this, and he didn't trust like, American like police officers and stuff or the FBI. And so the FBI doesn't want like a foreigner in, doing an investigation in their country. Now, this is like, this shows the prejudice towards two countries and not trusting other people's like stuff. And so like, so he comes over here, so they get like a detective to like basically babysit him and keep him like away from the investigation. And this is where Carter comes in. Carter had just busted a guy who's selling C4. Also, rest in peace. Like, I think he plays Clive in the movie. Chris Penn, may he rest in peace and everything. He died. In fact, there are two other people who died in this movie as well. So that's one of the sad things about this movie not aging well, because people died. And also in the second and the third movie, there's some people who make small appearances in the movie that have been canceled. Anyways, so he busts this dude, but by busting him, two officers got shot and he blew up half like a neighborhood and everything. Carter is a very reckless police officer who, like I said before, who doesn't even act like a police officer and stuff. He just acts like Chris Tucker, which is just the brilliance of this character. Originally, they wanted other people to play this, like Dave Chappelle, Martin Lawrence, but it was some movie that Chris did that really impressed the director. And I'm so glad they cast Chris in this movie. I love how fast talking this man is. He's loud. He's very like, ambitious, he's very flashy. Like, you needed his sense of humor in this movie and stuff. He is just outrageous in this movie. In the other two movies, he's still outrageous, but he's more tame and calm and stuff like that. And so when he meets, like, Lee, he doesn't want nothing to do with him because of the simple fact he doesn't want a partner and he doesn't want to babysit nobody and he wants to work for the FBI. So when he refuses to take Lee to like the councilman's house, this is when Lee just like escapes and Carter's like chasing him all the way downtown, and it makes for hilarious chase and stuff. But then the second best part of this movie is when like I think it's like, what was it, like a police officer stopped them, and Carter's all like, look man, I'm a cop, let me show you my badge and everything, because they both had guns in their hands. And then you hear Lee's character's all like, I'm a police officer too, I'm just showing him how to disarm like a suspect. And then it's kind of like, what? He can speak English. And this movie has some of the best lines, like, why didn't you tell me you speak English? Oh, you assumed I couldn't and everything. And the whole, are you understanding the words that are coming out of my mouth? Like, that phrase was like the biggest thing back in the day where everybody was saying that phrase. And so, because the FBI doesn't want Lee nowhere around his investigation, Carter decides he's going to do it on his own, and Lee is going to have to just be his partner. So he goes to one of his informants named Luke. And so, like, who's actually his cousin. And this is where, like, the cultural differences come in, because, he greets everybody as the N-word, and Lee has no idea what that word means. So he does it, and it pisses them off to where they get into a huge fight. And so the thing about Carter is that, like, he his informants are like sketchy people, either former criminals or current criminals. The current criminals happen just to be his cousin and stuff. So he's been lying to Lee this whole time and stuff like that, and Lee does not like that. Anyways, after they start, like, cause they're trying to find a guy named Jun Tao, but they have no idea who he is, and nobody knows what the man looks like. And so they've been going all around town in LA and stuff like that, trying to find out like who this man is, while they're running into this Asian gang. And one of the heads is like Sang. He's like the lieutenant and everything. And so he makes their life miserable, because you think Sang is kind of like in charge, because he's the one asking for the ransom money and stuff like that. And so it causes these two to cause like a big commotion around town. Things are getting blown up. They stop the money transfer because Lee believes it's like a setup and everything, because why would you make the money exchange in a shady looking building like this and it happens to blow up? They go to like an Asian restaurant, and like, because they heard there's a lead that Ju Tao like goes there and stuff like that. So, and that leads us, of course, to one of the funniest and probably the best montages I've ever seen. The war thing. Because, see, when it comes to these two, they have a difference of, like, music. Like, Lee likes the Beach Boys, and Carter hates the Beach Boys, and he doesn't want nobody messing with his radio station. He just wants to listen to R&B music and hip-hop music and stuff. And so then all of a sudden, Lee starts singing war, and Carter's all like, you don't know nothing about no war. And so this causes like this big long montage that's just like there's the heart and soul of this movie, because it's cool seeing these two differences come together and them trying to do like, what the other person does, or say things the way the other person does. And it's just like a great montage and everything. And so it leads them to go to like this restaurant where Jun Tao happens to be there. Carter's acting the fool, and things go wrong to where he doesn't even know Lee can fight. And so this is like another cultural shock to him, because, which I'm surprised, because how a lot of people in the West, they assume all Chinese people know martial arts. But, and then so he actually didn't know that Lee could do this stuff. And so it's one of the best fight scenes in the entirety of the movie. And Carter realizes, who he sees on like, the monitors near like the getaway van and stuff. it's this one white British dude. So Tim Wilkinson, may he rest in peace as well. He died. He was in Batman Begins. I didn't even know that was him. He looks completely different. He plays the bad guy in this, and he is actually Juntao and everything. Basically, he had a bunch of like, Chinese artifacts and that got like, taken by like the councilman and the police over in China, and he wants them back. This is why he kidnapped Su Young and ransomed her off. And so like he's been working with this Asian gang the entire time. And so Carter recognizes him when they go to this big banquet. Also at this banquet, Carter and Lee need some help. Because there's a bunch of C4 going around, they're going to need a bomb expert and everything. And this is when they get the help of Detective Johnson, played by that of Elizabeth Pena. And oh man, may she rest in peace too. She was so cool in this movie, and I remember her from Modern Family playing Gloria's mom, and she always seemed like just a lovely type woman. It's sad to know that she died and everything. And so, like, she helps defuse the bomb that's on Su Lee as all this stuff is going on. See, all of these artifacts are like some of the last remnants of like it's some kind of thing that happened in China with British people that I never knew about this. I think it's like the handover of Hong Kong or something like that, the last day of British rule. Because apparently I didn't know the British people occupied parts of like China and stuff like that for like a long time. They didn't rule it like they did India, but it was more like an economic type thing over there. And I had no idea this was even like, a thing. Because like we don't hear about stuff like this, you know what I'm saying? And I think it was back in 1841 when all of this happened and stuff. Um, but I think it might have ended in 1997, I think, or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, so they try to help the girl. They try to like stop Juntao while they're fighting off all the guards, and like there's a bunch of like antique stuff that's falling down, and Lee's trying to like save it, and everything, and but some of the stuff like smashes it, and then he puts the bomb on himself, and he climbs. Jackie Chan does what he does. He climbs up the tallest thing and just does like craziest stuff. And Carter has to like save him, and then the bad guy gets blown up and stuff like that, or he falls and get blown up. I think. I'm not sure because my DVD skips and it skips that part, so I need to buy a new DVD. I'm surprised, like, because they have this on, like, you can buy, like, the 3-movie set, or you can buy them individually. I'm surprised the individual movies aren't, like, $5 or $8. They're, like, a little bit more online and stuff. But this is, like, a real old movie. But like I said before, it's a really good movie and stuff. And so because of this, Carter, like, gets a promotion to where they want him to be in the FBI, but he turns them down because the way the FBI treated both Carter and Lee was really disgusting and very prejudiced and stuff. And so Carter decides he's going to go to China with that of like Lee for a vacation and stuff. And this leads into like, the second movie. And the second movie is just hilarious. It's like, Zhang Ziyi is in there. Rosalind Sanchez is in there. And, I can't wait to talk about that one because I just love that movie and stuff. But the first one was really, really, really something out there. It was something different. It was like, it was just something that just like imploded on the screen and everything because people was not used to seeing it. I remember my uncle told me a couple of years back, like he said one of the reason why this movie was a success is because instead of your typical one race lead or like black or white lead, it's black and Asian, and people are not used to seeing that. So it was just like a real just like cultural shock and everything. And I do like that cultural shock of like the movie and stuff because it's great when two different races or countries can come together because turns out, like I learned this a couple of years back, a lot of Asian people don't like black folks and stuff. And like they mostly just like their own race or they like white people more. And that's because of like the financial stuff that goes on like in America. And I remember like, one of my relatives, her friend who was Asian, he told her that his parents didn't want him hanging around her and stuff like that because she's black. And of course, a lot of people in America who are white don't like black people and stuff. And it's just like, I'm like, holy crap. Like, I didn't even know that. So it was cool that these two races could come together back in 98 and stuff. And, I still can't believe they made a TV show about this. The TV show came out a few years ago. It was on CBS and it was completely recast. They also changed a couple of things around. Like this time, Lee has a sister and she's working for like, the Asian gang people, which he had no idea. You have Carter, who his cousin, the Luke type character. He actually helps them on their cases and he's there for comedic relief. I watched only the first episode and the first episode only because it was just a terrible show. Like when you watch the trailer looks cool, but then once you watch the actual show, it's just like, no offense to the two lead actors in the show, they just don't hold a candle to that of like Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. They just don't. And there's some really huge shoes to fill. Like, you either have it or you don't. And sadly, they didn't have it and stuff. And this is why most people never even heard of this show. I mentioned it once about 2 or 3 years ago, and that's about it. So yeah, you can actually find this on like all kind of streaming sites. You can find it on DVD. It's one of those movies you have to experience and stuff. Like, like it's just one of those cultural phenomenons that you just gotta experience at least once. Because this movie really did take the world by storm and everything. And the sequels, although they was a bit more tame and everything and slightly watered down, especially that third one. Like I liked the third one, but the third one just didn't feel right. Something felt so off with that third movie. It's almost like everybody's heart really wasn't in it. And since we know Jackie hates these movies, it's probably a reason why. And it makes me now wonder if he hates the Rush Hour movies, and the Rush Hour movies are, I don't know what's his successful American movie is. I don't know, because he's made a couple of American movies, but I don't know which one's the most successful. But if he doesn't like the Rush Hour movies, it makes you wonder how he feels about all those other American movies he made, like the Karate Kid, the Ninja Turtles movie, the Tuxedo and everything, because the Tuxedo bombed at the box office, but I like it and everything. But it makes you wonder because the Tuxedo is kind of not some. It has some of the Rush Hour like points here and there, but it makes you wonder if he hates Rush Hour. Then it makes you really wonder, does he hate all those other movies and stuff?